You know what's crazy? Most people think becoming wealthy starts with a big paycheck, a lucky break, or some genius investment strategy. But the truth? For most people, wealth starts with something so small it feels almost stupid. $100. That's it. The same $100 that disappears on food delivery, random online shopping, or one weekend you barely even remember. And yet, that same $100, repeated over and over again, can quietly build a life most people only dream about. Not overnight, not in 6 months, but slowly, silently, while almost nobody notices. And the scariest part? The difference between the person who becomes financially free and the person who stays stuck forever often comes down to one tiny decision made on an ordinary Tuesday night. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're either going to realize why your future is already changing, or why you've been unknowingly delaying your freedom for years. Let me tell you something nobody admits. Most people are not broke because they don't make enough money. They're broke because their money disappears before it has a chance to become anything. Think about it. You get paid, for a few hours you feel safe, then the money starts moving. Bills, subscriptions, coffee, food, shopping, one small purchase after another, and somehow by the end of the month, you're wondering where it all went. Sound familiar? Because it happens to almost everyone. And here's the dangerous part. Most people believe they'll start investing later. Later when they earn more. Later when life calms down. Later when they feel ready. But later is a trap. Because when your income grows, your lifestyle grows with it. You don't suddenly become disciplined. You just buy more expensive distractions. Imagine two people. One starts investing $100 a month at 24 years old. The other waits until 34 because they wanted to be financially stable first. Guess what? The first person often ends up with way more money even if they earned less. Not because they were smarter, because time was working for them while the other person was still waiting. And most people never realize this until it's too late. So one day you finally do it. You open the investment app, your finger hovers over the screen, and suddenly your brain starts fighting you. What if the market crashes? What if I need the money later? What if this is pointless? But eventually you hit confirm. $100 invested. And nothing changes. No fireworks, no instant success, no magical feeling. The next morning your account says $99.42. And somehow that tiny drop feels personal. You check the app 3 times that day, then 4. Then maybe you stop checking because honestly, it feels kind of disappointing. 6 months later, you've invested consistently. Your balance is maybe $600–700, and emotionally, it still feels small. This is the stage where most people quit, not because they failed, because nothing exciting happened. Nobody claps for consistency in the beginning. Nobody celebrates the first few $100s. And that's exactly why most people never become wealthy, because they underestimate boring progress. Here's the truth nobody tells you about investing. The hardest part has nothing to do with money. It's psychology. Because every month, life gives you reasons to stop. Your car needs repairs. Friends invite you out. An emergency shows up. You convince yourself, I'll skip this month and continue later. And one skipped month becomes 3, then 6. Then suddenly, the habit is dead. Not dramatically, quietly. That's how most dreams die, quietly. And the painful part? The people who quit usually aren't lazy. They're normal. Human brains are terrible at valuing long-term rewards. We want proof now. We want visible results now. But wealth doesn't grow that way. It grows invisibly first, like planting seeds underground. For a long time, it looks like nothing is happening. Then one day, everything starts appearing at once. Think about going to the gym. The first week, nothing changes. The first month, still barely noticeable. But after a year, You look like a different person. Money works the same way. Except most people quit before the transformation becomes visible. Now here's where everything changes. After a while, something strange starts happening. Your account grows slowly, but your identity changes faster. You stop seeing yourself as bad with money. You stop panicking every time you check your bank account. You stop buying random things just because you had a stressful day. And for the first time in your life, you start thinking long-term. That shift, that's the real wealth. Because money follows identity. The person who consistently invests becomes different from the person who constantly consumes. And eventually, people around you notice it too. Not because you suddenly look rich, but because your energy changes. You become calmer, more patient, less desperate. While everyone else reacts emotionally to money, you start operating with intention. Then the market crashes. And trust me, at some point it will. Maybe your portfolio drops 10%, 15%, 20%, and suddenly fear returns. You open the app, and hundreds of dollars are gone. Gone. And your brain screams, sell. This is the moment that separates people. Because average investors panic. Wealthy investors continue. Not because they feel fearless, but because they understand something important. The market rewards patience more than intelligence. So instead of stopping, you keep investing. And weirdly enough, those scary months often become the most profitable years later. But nobody believes that until they experience it themselves. A few years pass. Now your account is sitting at maybe $5,000, $8,000, $12,000. Still not life-changing money, but now something different happens. The growth starts speeding up. At first you were doing all the work. Now your money starts helping. You wake up one morning and realize your investments made money while you slept. That feeling is impossible to explain until it happens. Because for the first time, you understand leverage. Not social media hustle culture leverage, real leverage. Your money working without your time. And suddenly, the process becomes addictive. Not because you're obsessed with getting rich, but because you finally see proof. You realize, oh, this actually works. Most people spend their whole lives trading time for money. But wealthy people? They spend years building systems that pay them forever. That's the difference. And it usually starts with tiny amounts nobody takes seriously. There's another part nobody warns you about. As your mindset changes, some relationships change too. You notice people around you spending emotionally, buying things to impress strangers, living paycheck to paycheck with expensive lifestyles. And suddenly, you feel different. Not better. Different. Because while everyone else is chasing appearances, you're building security. And sometimes that feels lonely. You stop needing constant validation. You stop trying to look successful. You become focused on freedom instead. That's a dangerous mindset. Because once someone tastes long-term thinking, it's very hard to go back. Now let me tell you the biggest lie people believe about money. They think wealth comes from huge actions, huge salaries, huge investments, huge opportunities. But real wealth usually comes from small decisions repeated for a very long time. That's it. The person investing $100 consistently often beats the person waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment never arrives. Life will always give you reasons to delay, always. But time keeps moving anyway, and every year you wait, compound interest loses another year to help you. That's the tragedy. Most people understand compounding intellectually, but emotionally they don't believe it until decades have passed. And by then, they would trade almost anything to go back and start earlier. The beautiful part? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need thousands of dollars. You don't need to know everything. You just need to start before your excuses become your identity. because eventually the habit stops feeling like effort. It becomes who you are. And once that happens, wealth stops being luck. It becomes inevitable. So here's the question. 5 years from now, when you look at your bank account, what story do you want it to tell? The story of someone who kept waiting? Or the story of someone who started small, felt foolish, kept going anyway, and quietly changed their entire future? Because remember, almost nobody notices the first $100. Nobody notices the second. Or the 10th. But one day, people look at the life you built and call you lucky. They never see the years of invisible discipline behind it, the late nights, the boring consistency, the tiny sacrifices nobody applauded. But you'll know. And deep down, that's what makes it valuable. The machine is open. The clock is already moving. The only question is, are you finally going to feed it? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because this channel is about building real wealth, real discipline, and a life future you will thank you for. I'll see you in the next one.